Okay, this is the fourth and final in a series of tutorial videos about the interactive mapping website, at least final in this set of webinars. Today we're actually going to be talking about Pictometry, which is not necessarily a 100% integrated into the web mapping site. And what I mean by that is that it's a third-party application and third-party data that is integrated, but there's other ways to access it. So that's what we're going to go through today, different ways to access it, the types of tools you can get through it, and kind of how that could help you perhaps in your job. So first, as always, I'm going to start out with a couple of polls. First one I'm always interested is what your industry is in terms of how you use the interactive mapping website. I understand that I couldn't add all the possible categories, but if you have one that's close, go ahead and pick that. And I realize that some attendees are not alone. There's a group of you there, so I guess vote as well as you can. I'll give this just a couple more seconds before I close the poll. All right. Not surprisingly, pretty much everybody who's on for today is in the real estate or assessing sector. So I'll kind of try to focus the topics along that path. And I know a lot of you have used the interactive mapping website before, so I'm going to ask a few more poll questions specifically about Pictometry. First, I'd like to know how often you use it. For some people, I believe it's probably one of the primary reasons you use the interactive mapping website. So you can answer as often as you use the interactive mapping website, or infrequently, or never. Which, if you haven't used it, hopefully after today you will. Okay, and again, it looks like this is one of the primary tools used. That's great. Hopefully we'll find some more tools that could be of use to you. Even going through the process of setting up this webinar, I found some things that I didn't know I could do. So it's been really interesting for me. Finally, I'll ask one more question. How often do you use the Pictometry tools? And I say advanced because you are required to log in to use the Pictometry tools. So I'm curious if people are just viewing the images or if the tools actually come in handy in terms of doing measurements. And again, it looks like every time the website is used, the tools are used. So that's good. That means that it seems like most everybody here would have a login, so there won't be a problem with kind of confusion about what that means. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the meat of this here. I'm going to go back to our website, back to home. I'm going to go back to the online applications dropdown, and you'll see something for Pictometry imagery. Now, when I said there are multiple ways to reach the Pictometry products, this is what I'm talking about. There's actually there's really 4 ways that you can access the data, and they're all a little different in terms of what you can do and the kind of tools you can use. So first I'm going to start with the Pictometry view extension. This is what is actually embedded in our interactive mapping viewer. So and it says right here, it's built into the MCLAO's interactive mapping website. I will click on that to launch it. Oh, there we go. And by default, everybody has access to at least the very basic imagery that's available behind Pictometry. First is to get some terms out of the way. There's two different types of images available. One is overhead or a nadir shot or an ortho photo. Basically, it's a top-down view. And then the other is a side view or an oblique image. And I think, when most people think about pictometry, they think about the oblique imagery. So anywhere on the map, even somebody from the public can right-click and say Open Pictometry extension here. And it will open either a new tab or a new window depending on how your browser is set up. And this is the classic side view or oblique image. And this is actually linked. If I pull this tab out, this is Firefox, so it kind of operates differently. So if I pull this tab out into a separate window, it's actually linked to the map. So as I pan the map, if you have two monitors, this is a little easier to see. Here, let me actually pan around the Pictometry map. You see that the map behind it is changing, so they're linked. And that's available in the preferences. You can auto sync, show crosshairs, show status. And the basic functionality is limited. It's basic. All you can do is rotate the image. So you can view this house and its pool from multiple angles. And you can even change the date. So you'll see that there is multiple images from this spring. This is when our most recent collection was. Basically, it's just as the airplane flies by, it takes multiple images. So if there's multiple images referenced to a certain point, you can see them all. And you can even go back here to 2013. So that's about it in terms of what you can do without having secure access. So the way to get secure access is first you need to request it from the county if you haven't already done so. I'll get into how to do that in just a minute. But then once you have a login to the interactive mapping website, you can sign in. It's in the upper right corner. It's not prompting me for login information, I believe, because I was already logged in. But if you weren't, you'd have to put in your username and password that was assigned to you. Okay. Then, if we go back to anywhere on the map, you can right-click and go to Open Pictometry extension here, or you can go into Maps and Data Sources and go to Pictometry. It does the same thing. You'll see everything in the map window looks the same, except all of a sudden there's a lot more tools up here. So we now have the addition of XY location coordinates. That's pretty self-explanatory. Click on that, click on a point on the map, and you get the latitude and longitude. Measure distance, simply drag a line across. You see this fence is about 256 feet long. Measure height, you might measure the height of the goalpost here. If I can get my mouse on it. It's roughly 10, 11 feet tall. Measure elevation, that's just any point on the map. You can see the elevation is about 703 feet. Measure an area, there's some instructions that pop up on how exactly to do that. Basically, you have to draw a line, and then if you're trying to measure a square, you can hit Control, or you can hit Alt and kind of draw your own line. And I'll show what that looks like. Let me find a better area to measure here. Okay, let's do one of these tennis courts. So measure area. Okay. Drag a line, hit Control, and then drag a box over. Then once you let go, it'll say it's 2802 square feet, which incidentally I looked up tennis courts earlier, and it's almost exactly, I think it's 2818 square feet. So, it's not survey grade accuracy, but it's pretty good. You can also start drawing dragging, and then if you hit Alt, you'll be able to draw your own shape, and it'll auto-complete it. And once it calculates it, there, that's 10,000 square feet. And I apologize if that's hard to see up there, but this is where the measurements come out. You can measure a bearing, which is just the direction that a line is facing. So this tennis court is facing 359.56 degrees, so north, due north. And finally, you can export the area, which is just exporting an image. And here's the export. So pretty basic stuff, pretty easy to understand and use. Probably the measure area and then the elevation are the most useful tools. The fact that by default, by default, you would be drawing squares is kind of helpful, because with an oblique image, it's really hard to, you can't really draw a perfect square around it, but it knows the shape of the earth and it does all the calculations for you. So that is the basic pictometry view for GeoCortex, which is built into our website. So now I'm going to go away from our interactive mapping viewer and look at some of the other products. So if I go back to the Pictometry page on the MCLIO website, the next option down is Pictometry Online. And I would say that this is probably the premier and most robust tool or set of tools that Pictometry has. So depending on, and you need a secure login for this, you need a Pictometry login. So let me go back to Pictometry. It says login required. There's a couple of links here. They all go to the same place to request access. So if you don't have access and you work for a municipality within Milwaukee County, then you can get access to these tools. Once you're logged in, it will go to the map will go to the default location of your organization. For Milwaukee County, it takes us to the courthouse. But depending on where you work, it would actually take you to a different location. Okay, so I am going to navigate to an area where I've got some good polygons to measure. Okay, so a lot of these tools are similar to what was embedded into the website, but there's a couple of extra ones that are really interesting. So I'm just going to go down the list in the toolbar here. Well, first, there's more options in general of manipulating the map itself. For one, we have data integrated in here from the McCandless data sources. So there's street center lines, and we have parcel polygons, and they all are stretched and manipulated and fit right on the map. Also, there's more navigation options. You can search by address, you can search by center lines, by parcels, tax key, etc. Then there's your basic functions to export a map image, send a link, or to print a map. But those aren't really the interesting tools. Let's get into the more interesting ones here. There's, of course, distance, height, elevation, location, bearing. Those are all tools that we already saw, so I'm not going to get into those. One interesting one is the pitch tool. So let me turn off parcels just because that's distracting. The pitch tool allows you to, well, as it describes in the map tip there, measure the area and pitch of a roof in an oblique image. So this, in the real estate or assessing area, it might be interesting to know how much area a roof covers, or the general, especially if it could be a flat roof, I suppose. But this is generally for roofs with defined gables like this. So if I use the pitch tool, first you measure from the ground on the corner up to the gable. Whoops. I just messed that up. Excuse me. All right, let me start that again. Start from the corner up to the gable. Then you draw a second line from the ground up to the peak. And then you go from the peak across the roof. And you see it automatically knows essentially the shape that a square roof should take. So I finish this, and it says the roof area is 252 square feet. The eave height, so here, is 7.3 feet. The peak is 12.5 feet. The angle is 27 degrees, or the roof pitch is 6/12. So you get some really interesting information without ever having to set foot in the field. So you can really start to do some at least ballpark estimates about how structures may be changing throughout the county. The next tool is an extract, which is pretty much the same as saving an image. You simply drag an area that you want to save, and it saves it as an export. You can magnify, so if you don't want to zoom in all the way on the map, this could be helpful. Obviously, if you're already zoomed in, it doesn't help that much, but if you're at an extreme distance, you can start to understand more of what smaller features are on the map, like what's next to this garage. At this scale, it's hard to tell. Excuse me. But if you use the zoom tool, you can see that it's garbage cans. There's a query tool. This could be used to get you query tax keys or parcels or street names. I'm not going to get into that. It's just a kind of a general search tool. You can leave a markup on the map. Let's say there's a, turn that off. Let's say you'd propose putting a stop sign here, or there already is one. Pick stop, and there it is. And you could mark up your whole map then using some of these other tools. Resurface this road. So you can mark up a map and export an image, for a presentation, for a report, and have all this text built in right into the correct spot on the oblique image. There's a line and shape tool, which again allows you to mark up on the map. And you can change the line color, fill color, line weight, etc. I'm not going to get into that. There's contours, which shows you roughly the elevation around where you're navigating. I don't know that this is perhaps the most accurate data that's been put in here, so it's, take it with a grain of salt, I guess. But what is interesting is that you can get slope through the slope tool, and I'll get to that in a second. First, there's the dual pane mode, which allows you to do a side-by-side image. So on the right is a nadir view, which is directly overhead, and then that's linked to the left side here, which is an oblique view. Looks like there's some elevation change in this park. That's perhaps a low spot or a mound there, but it's really hard to tell. Luckily, we can use the slope tool, and it gives you instructions about how you would do that. So first you want to, it said to start at the beginning of the slope. I need to zoom out a little bit here to get this area more defined. See, unfortunately, you can get out of order here with these steps. All right, let me try that again. Okay, slope tool. So I want to start my slope at, let's say, this lamppost here. It's kind of hard to see. Then I have to find the lamppost on this image. Okay, it's right there. And then where do I want the slope to end? I want to know the slope between that lamp and this lamp here. So I find that lamp there, find the lamp here, and it gives the slope. Well, the slope here is 0, unfortunately, so that's not a great example, but it's good to know that this is a flat spot. It's, hard to tell with an overhead or even an oblique view that this is flat. I'm more curious about this spot here. So let's see if we can do this slope really quick. Go from the start of this wall to this lamp post here. Again, okay, so that's 16 feet of height difference. So that's a great tool to use when without having to access like LiDAR data. You can get it right from Pictometry. And then the oh, that's what I just did. Essentially, you can pick out elevation at certain points. It's the same. It's basically the same as what we just did. It's just you're picking out elevation and not slope. So I want the elevation of this lamp, but I don't want to open up LiDAR data. Here you go. You get the latitude, longitude, and elevation. Finally, there's a tool called 3D Model Tools. I'm not sure that these are enabled because I wasn't able to get them to work. So I'm going to have to look into if this function is actually available. Okay, so I spent a lot of time on Pictometry Online because it's probably the most robust feature we have. So I'm just quickly going to do Connect Explorer. This is kind of a new product that Pictometry has put out. It's kind of meant to be a lightweight version of Pictometry Online. It probably will become the new Pictometry Online, but for now it doesn't have as good of tools and functionality as Pictometry Online. So I don't even really need to go into much detail with this other than to show that the basic tools are the same. You don't get the pitch tool, some of those other handy and unique tools in here, but it's a lightweight and easy to use product. So if you don't need to do a lot of measuring or complicated measuring, this is a great tool. And it, of course, allows you to go back through various image dates. What's different between Pictometry Online and here Connect Explorer with the embedded tool Pictometry View in our website is that you can go much farther back in time. So every year that we have collected, 2006, 8, 10, 13, 15, it's all available. So here I can go back to 2006, get the oblique image. You see here it's the USL Arena. Okay, let's go to 2013. Still USL. Let's go to 2015. Milwaukee Panther Arena. So you can go through each of the images that are available for one location. You can change the year, you can change the angle, so you can really get a sense of changes that have occurred in almost a 10-year span now. So, as this library grows, we're only going to get more information. The last tool I want to go through really quickly while we have time is the ArcGIS toolbar. So if you are a user of ArcGIS desktop ArcMap, you can use Pictometry data right in your map. So the way you do that, again, you have to have secure access, but you download the toolbar, follow the install instructions, and then once you're in ArcMap, you'll have a toolbar available. Of course, you have to turn on the Pictometry for ArcGIS Desktop Connect, and the tools here are all similar to other Pictometry tools, the difference being you can use it right in your map. So you can use the Pictometry image search. This will pull up the image that's available here. How this is different from previous versions of the Pictometry toolbar is that the data doesn't need to reside locally on your network. It's all online. You use the same login information that you use to get to Pictometry Online. You use that in ArcMap to access the data here. So I click login, it says I'm logged in somewhere else, so yes, I need to terminate. And then this gives you a lot of the same great tools that are available elsewhere. And one of the other tools that's interesting is that, for one thing, there's a lot of overlap about what you can, it's hard to see, but there's parcel lines on here. If you go into the settings, you can change all of the things that, how the maps are linked. Display location on map, display image footprint. I hit OK. Again, this is easier if you have two monitors available to you. So as you pan around your map, you'll see there's a red line here. That's the image footprint. Other tools available to you, again, are height, area, elevation, location, bearing, extract. One of the interesting ones is that you can add an image to a map. So if I want to add this image that I'm looking at here into this red box, I click this button. It'll take just a second here, but what it's doing is actually warping and manipulating that image to overlay it inside of your map. And sometimes it acts a little funky, so I'm hoping it actually comes up here. What's interesting is that I just got a warning that 25 images added is reached or license error. So it might be that apparently I've done this too much and it won't let me do it anymore. But that's something that you can do. You can import these images right into the map. So we're about out of time. I'm going to open it up. I'll check and see if there's any questions here. If you have any, please let me know. I realize that's 4 different products we went through in a quick amount of time, but they're all available to you if you have the login. And again, if I go back to the Pictometry page, any one of these areas that you request access, we'll get that message. We'll set up a username and password. And these descriptions here kind of tell you what the pros and cons of using each of these tools. So if at any time you're wondering if one's better than the other, you can always go here, read the description, try them out, and see which tools might be best for you. So with that, I don't see any questions. Thank you all for attending today, and thank you all for attending our other webinars. This will be available online, again, in the Interactive Mapping Service page. And please check your announcements about future webinar series as we develop the HTML5 website. Thanks, and have a good day, everyone.